Welcome, everybody, to the next edition of Think Suburbia, the podcast of the Suburban Virginia Republican Coalition, the SUVGOP. I'm Mike Ginsberg. I am one of the hosts of the podcast, one of the co-founders of the SUVGOP.
And I'm Jill Cook. I'm the host of the podcast and another one of the founders of SUVGOP, the Suburban Virginia Republican Coalition. And I want to welcome tonight's guest. And this is Jeff Jordan. We are thrilled to have him here. He is our Republican candidate for the 8th District Congress, running against Don Beyer. So welcome, Jeff.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your audience and look forward to having a great conversation.
Excellent. So 2 questions right off the bat. First of all, we would like to know a little bit about your background. And after that, why, what prompted you to run for Congress in this race in the 8th District right now? Was there a defining moment, a trigger, or something that made you say, yeah, I'm going to do this?
Sure. So just by way of background, I was born at Fort Belvoir here in the district. But my family is military, so we moved a lot. And my dad retired in Montana, so that's where I grew up. And then I joined the military, and then I've spent probably 25 of the last 30 years in the DC area. So DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I've lived in all 3, and currently live in Arlington and with my family. And really, what has prompted me to jump into this race this year is the direction our country is headed. Having been around the world, seeing what the wrong side looks like, what socialism, collectivism, tyranny, all the stuff that we are only exposed to through video and news, I've seen it firsthand. And I will tell you that there is one reason that people come to this country. It's because they want to get away from the socialism and the tyranny. And unfortunately, what we're seeing from the far left, the socialist left, is bringing that to America. And it's already kind of caught hold. It's getting entrenched. And I felt compelled as a serviceman. I've spent my entire life defending this country on foreign soil. Now I have to do it in a domestic capacity. So that is exactly why I'm running. And I intend to see it through to the end.
That's a really interesting way that you put it. You were defending us on foreign soil. Now you're defending the same principles on our own soil. Who knew it would come to this, right? Right. Well, to kind of elaborate just a little bit, what we have here in America that brings people here, the reason we have the immigration that we do is liberty. Liberty is the foundation of this country, and it's different from freedom. Freedom is the desire to and the ability to do what you would like to do when you want to do it. The difference, and it's a nuanced difference between freedom and liberty, is that liberty, by its nature, implies individual responsibility. So it's not just being able to do what you want. It's being responsible for doing what is right. And that is the cornerstone of what makes America great. And that is why people come here. They come for the opportunity. They come for rule of law. And we are seeing those institutions just battered and beaten, and it has to stop.
Now, I guess we are the Suburban Virginia Republican Coalition. Obviously, one of the things we focus on are suburban voters. Of course, Arlington 8th District, that's very suburban. A lot of single-family homes, a lot of young families, a lot of things like that. How do, I guess, some of the issues facing them, I guess, how do you marry up sort of those principles, the concerns, very real concerns about sort of the socialist turn within the Democratic Party? What are some of the issues that are, affecting the 8th Congressional District where you see that sort of socialist bent manifesting itself and your kind of need to fight back?
Well, I think it's made most clear in our school system, and we need to get kids back to school. Yes. That is the number one issue right now at the local level and the federal level. right? Because it's having such a huge impact, not only on the adults who have to work or try to find work, but also on the kids. The impact to children socially, developmentally, there's so much going on as a child, just as a part of growing up, that's already making it a challenge. But then you throw this on top of it, and it just becomes almost unbearable. And the downside on all of those other issues, in terms of social aspect, the increase in depression or suicide, or all of those other negatives are huge, and we aren't counting those. Why are we not counting those in line with the COVID?
Right.
And really showing how the COVID's affecting not just infection rates or test rates, but how's it affecting us in the other areas, socially, economically, you name it. And let's figure out not what zero looks like, but what does a calculated and an acceptable risk level look like?
Exactly. You know, that's the thing. People forget the collateral damage of the government's response, which leads us to our next question. What are your thoughts about how the Virginia Democrats, including the governor, have handled this and the fallout from their, what we think might be bad decisions, and what would you have done differently?
Well, I think that the biggest error here across the board, not just in Virginia, but across the country, in the states, which are predominantly Democrat-run states, where you have seen the greatest negative impact in terms of lockdowns, and some of the most severe lockdowns, that the idea that staying home and doing all of these things is the best thing to do, the data doesn't support that. And when you look at the data, I liken it very much to the data in climate change. Okay, there is truth in both data sets. At the end of the day, there's been enough suspect data, enough bad data inculcated and calculated that you can no longer trust the data,
right,
and you can no longer trust the decisions being made on the data.
Right.
And so then, and then that's where the individual opinions of people start to really spread out, because then everybody has a data point they can point at that justifies their position, and then you get defensive, and it builds from there. So the problem we have isn't so much on the treatment end, it's on the data end. So let's understand what the data is, how it's being built, and the science in which is being used to calculate and set the algorithms, and then how is that being addressed and pushed to the decision makers to make the decisions. I think what we've seen from the left is a almost draconian effort to seize control and make this as difficult as possible, number one, for the president to get reelected, but secondly, to gain their own power, right? So there's two pieces to that. So I really think that there's a lot there that we need to look at as a Congress, address it, build a framework, do something similar as we did after 9/11, and have the commission and look at what went right, what went wrong, how do we protect public safety while at the same time protecting civil liberties, and build that balance, build the framework, and so that the next time we end up in an environment, whether it's a bio-related or some other environment where we have to do a lockdown or a national level response, that everybody knows going in exactly what to expect, where the lines are, where there is flexibility and where there isn't. Because then as a nation, going through, exactly what it's going to look like, exactly what to expect, exactly how to plan, exactly how to do your private budget, your personal budget, and your personal family plan in order to address those challenges.
Right. I guess one of the things facing the next Congress, whatever, certainly there's the health aspect to this, but there's also certainly the economic aspect to this.
Mm-hmm.
And the next Congress is going to be faced with a lot of decisions about how to recover and really resuscitate an economy that has either been partially or completely mothballed. What would you do, as if you were elected to Congress? What are some of the policy priorities you would push to resuscitate the economy?
Well, I think we touched a little bit on it already. Is number one, we have to get the socialists out of the equation.
Right.
Because when you look at whether it's the economy or any of the other issues, immigration, healthcare, education, those are not problems in and of themselves. Those are symptoms of a problem. The problem is socialism. You have people entrenched in the legislative branch and other branches of government who have no desire to fix the problems. Because when you fix the problems, you can't spend more money to develop a program and garner more control over those issues. Okay? It all goes back to money. It all goes back to power. It all goes back to control. And so when you have that in mind, and you're looking at the lay of the land and understand that there are people who are actively instigating and preventing us from solving these problems, that's the first thing we need to do is challenge that and get rid of that and legislate in a way that kind of individual or that kind of process cannot be re-engaged down the road.
You're exactly right. That's what it is. People in control want the control for the sake of control, not for the sake of solving the problems of the U.S. And when you have socialism in control, that is not ever going to happen. So that's a great point. I wanted to ask, since you sort of talked about people in control, we wanted to go to your opponent, Don Beyer. Now, where is he part of this problem? Why does he need to be replaced? What has he done?
Okay, so
anything or bad?
So the American Conservative Union this past year ranked all the members of Congress on how conservative they were. And they scored them and gave them a percentage of how conservative they were. Well, the inverse of that then is obviously how liberal they are. So when you look at that score sheet, Don Beyer ranks as more liberal than Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, goodness.
If you can believe that.
Wow.
And if you look at his voting record, he's far left. He is nothing more than Pelosi's proxy voice in Virginia. Okay, he votes the far left. He's not out in front. You don't ever see him. Not on TV.
That's true.
People that I know work in the building where his office is have never seen him. Okay, they've worked there 25 years and have never seen Don Beyer in the building. Now, does that mean he's never been there? No. But what that means is he's not visible. He is not out front. He's not doing what he needs to do to represent the constituents of this district in a fashion that matters. So, to me, if you're going to represent, then stand up front, plant the flag, and represent. And be out there in the public talking to constituents on a regular basis, not just at election time, not just through, menial or your house news stuff. Go out and talk to people, engage them, the entire community, not just segments of it, because you represent everybody. That's the idea. So your job as the representative, or my job as representative, will be not to expect everybody to think the way I do, believe what I believe the way I believe it. That's not the game. You all bring your ideas to the table. You bring your perspectives. You bring your cultures. You bring who you are and what you're about to the table. And then it's my job then as a representative to take all of that and say, okay, in the best interest of the community at large, what rises to the top? What is most important? What serves the community best? And then take that to the table in the House and say, hey, the people of the 8th District, this is what they're thinking. This is what they're asking for. This is what I'll support. How can we make that happen? You bring your platform and your information in, and we're going to work it out.
Jeff, you're
that's a great
reasonable to be a congressman in the 8th district.
Well, I guess that sort of raises a good question, because when I used to live in the 8th district, I used to be the chair of the Republican committee there, and it is. I mean, I remember from my time there, it is a challenging district electorally. It can be. What I guess, and of course, it's a very suburban district. It's sort of the quintessential suburban district, although that has sort of moved west. It's almost, now it's in some ways a close-in suburb of Washington, D.C., but it's still a suburb. And we have had challenges there with that electorate. That's an electorate that has proven to be a tough nut to crack for the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. So I guess, without sort of divulging any secrets or campaign sort of information, what is going to be your approach to that suburban voter? And, maybe the second part of that question is, that's not just an Arlington phenomenon. It's not just an Alexandria phenomenon. It's a Fairfax phenomenon. It's a Richmond phenomenon. It's a Dallas phenomenon, a San Antonio phenomenon. That suburban voter. So what are you planning to sort of do as a campaign sort of strategy to work on that voter and, win them over to what I would consider the right thinking side?
Well, the first thing we're doing is we're letting the left continue to operate as left, because they're doing half the work for us.
There you go.
Right.
The chaos around this country that they are creating in terms of Antifa, BLM, you name it. People are scared. People are worried. I've personally known people here in the district who have left the district for a week or two at a time because they're scared. They're like, we have to get out of here. We are scared. We are worried. And then they come back and they work a little more, and then they might take off some more time. When you start doing that to communities, driving people out because they're scared to live in the communities, okay, you're starting to understand, or Northern Virginia is starting to understand, what it's like to live in a Democrat metropolis, right?
Right.
Okay? Because if you look at every major city in this country, most of which, if not all of them, run by Democrats for decades, per capita, so regardless of population levels, per capita, they have the highest murder rates, the highest
crime
problems with drugs, with you name it, crime. They have the strictest gun laws, but the highest number of gun deaths. It doesn't matter. If you take the top 5 cities in this country and take the gun deaths of those 5 major cities, all run by Democrats, all for decades. If you take those numbers out, America goes from the top of the list to the bottom of the list.
Wow.
Okay? In terms of per capita murder.
Yeah.
Right. Just in terms of numbers. And so to argue and say, well, guns are more dangerous. No, they're not.
Democrats
we kill more people in motor vehicles every year than we do with guns.
Right.
So let's not turn America into Baltimore or Seattle or Portland or LA or Chicago or Dallas. Keep going. That is not what America is about. America is about innovation, creativity, capitalism. There's nothing that anybody owns today that was built by a socialist country. Okay? It was all built by capitalism. So when Antifa's out there with their phones taking pictures, well, guess what? Capitalism built that phone. Built those shoes they're wearing, built the backpacks, everything they have.
Yep. Built
by capitalism. So, and I kind of want to go back to the economy that you talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. The economy in this country Okay, so the markets just reached a new high, or just got back to the high that they were at before COVID.
Right.
Okay. How amazing is that?
Right.
That even in light of COVID and 6 months lockdown, the markets anyway, if not the economy, the markets are already back where they were when we started this.
That's amazing.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now let's move forward to November 4th. Okay. Who, Donald Trump or Joe Biden, is going to take this country up, and who's going to take it down? Because this election isn't about left or right. This is about liberty or socialism. It's about up or down. Okay, when you walk into that voting booth, whenever you do it, and in Virginia it starts 18 September. So go vote 18 September, because don't take for granted that the 3rd of November will roll around and it's going to be sunshine and rainbows, because it won't. Because what the left will do is they will instigate and cause another lockdown or some other suppression in order to then further justify the mail-in vote. Okay, so 18 September, every Republican needs to be at the courthouse, standing in line, ready to vote. So, but back to the economy. The number one thing we can do is get back to putting people to work. But in order to put them to work, you got to get the kids back in school. Okay, so there's an order here. Get the kids in school, get people to work. We'll get there. We will take this economy, the whole thing, through the roof. Because the alternative is that this year, with all the decreased revenue because of COVID, well, that decreases the tax base. Well, what happens when governments don't have as much money, but they still have the same programs? Well, they have to raise taxes.
Yep.
Okay, so that's what's next if the Democrats win. They will raise taxes in order to meet that gap that they created with the lockdowns.
Yep.
So make no mistake, the choice is clear. This year, you vote red, we'll be number one. If you vote blue, we'll be done. Plain and simple.
That's a very excellent way to put it, and you're 100% right. Yeah. Mike, did you want to add anything to that?
No. I think we're getting close to our.
Yeah.
We usually do these, for a sort of a 20-minute window. We understand that that's sort of the optimal length of time for a podcast. But before getting to sort of the end of our podcast, we always like to find out a little bit about our guest. So, is there anything when you're not campaigning in the 10 minutes of free time you may find yourself having a week?
I have 10 minutes.
Where did they go? Is there anything you like to do for fun? It sounds like you've got a lovely family, and I imagine you like to spend time with them. But what do you like to do in your free time?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I still work full time. I'm still campaigning. So obviously, when I have some time and the kids are up, I'll spend time with them. They've got dad wrapped around the little fingers, both of them, and we always have a great time together. Other than that, I like to go out and do some woodworking and be outside, and I'm an outdoors kind of guy. I grew up in Montana, so that's kind of my world.
How old are your children again? Are they young?
They're 6 and 8.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Take them out and do some woodworking with them.
Yep.
Do some hiking.
They do all of that. They love every bit of it. They're so curious and want to do everything and be involved, and then they want to show you how they did it. So it's fantastic.
That's great. Well, I guess anything else that we haven't touched upon that any sort of parting thoughts that you might have, or any issues we haven't discussed you'd like to hit?
Really, the most important thing I can say to anybody who's out there listening is, again, this is about liberty. And Republicans and moderate Democrats understand that. And that's why the moderate Democrats are moving away from the socialist left.
Right.
We understand the importance of liberty to the foundation of this country, to the operation of this country, to the success of this country. And the socialists who have overtaken the Democratic Party just want to tear all that down.
Right.
So I'm here to fight against that. It doesn't belong here. It's not why people come here. So stand with me, join me, fight with me, support me, contribute to me so that we can win this fight. We have, 70 days left until November 3rd. And another 20 days and 22 days until the 18th of September. So get out there and vote as early as you can. Do not wait. Do not take it for granted. Vote as soon as you can, and make sure that those around you are registered to vote, that they're registered properly. Do it now. Check it now. And let's win this race. We can do it this year. The numbers are supporting it. So
I think that's excellent advice. And if someone would want to, there's a great segue, because if someone would want to get involved in your campaign, can you give us your website, social media, any of that information?
JeffGeorge.com, right there.
Excellent.
So that's the best way to do that. All the information's on there.
Okay. Facebook and Twitter and all that. So it's on your website.
And another point I'd like to make. A lot of people say, well, I don't live in the 8th. I can't help you. No, you can't vote for me, but you can still help me. Share the social media. Make calls or write letters to people or businesses or media. Come out and volunteer. We do police rallies. We have a volunteer night. We're doing trunk train and the flotilla. Come out, get involved, have fun. Look, we're not expecting you to make it a full-time job. A couple hours here, a couple hours there, as you can do it, and come out, have fun, learn some things, and join your community.
And you know what? I have a really quick question. Something that you said triggered this. Are you going to debate Don Beyer?
So right now we have a candidate forum. It's not a debate. A candidate forum on the 6th. I believe that's by the Autism Society. It's all on folks with disabilities and the policies there. The 8th is a forum with the Arlington County Civic Forum.
Okay.
Again,
Association,
through the Zoom, it's very canned, minute and a half, all the way down. And then the 23rd of September is the League of Women Voters.
Okay.
But again, that's going to be very, very structured. So none of it's really a debate. It's all forum activity.
Okay.
So,
important though. Important to get out there.
Right.
Thank you for sharing.
Now, we're working to get on the schedule. We've already been in talks with WMAL. We're going to get on WMAL, I believe, either next week or week after. And as part of that, we're going to actually challenge Don Beyer to an actual debate.
Good.
In the room, me in the room, and we each get to pick one or two moderators each, so that it's balanced, it's fair, and people can actually see us engage each other in conversation, in debate, and understand where we stand without the canned answers.
Excellent.
That's great. That's great. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jeff. We really do appreciate it, and we wish you all the best on your campaign. It's really appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Happy to do it anytime you'd like, and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we really appreciate Jeff's being here, and we appreciate all of you out there in the listening audience listening into our podcast. You can hear this podcast as well as all of our great podcasts by visiting our website, SUVGOP.com. If you go to the drop-down menu, SUVGOP's podcasts, it'll take you to the landing page where you'll find links to all of the podcasts. You can also visit our YouTube page where you can find all of our video podcasts, which we've been doing this year given the pandemic, and we hope that you visit them, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing you at the next SUVGOP Think Suburbia podcast. So thanks very much, everybody.